again, this thing builds out. I didn't know that it did that. This is what we're going to go through today. So I like to do things very much persona-based. I think that's really important for anybody to understand how they're going to interact with ServiceNow, right? Different users, they're different roles, they need different things, they're doing different tasks within ServiceNow. So I'm going to step through this. My intent, and I've asked Alex to keep me on schedule here, is to spend about 15 minutes on each. We'll be flexible enough to, if we overspend talking about the sailors' experience with ServiceNow and how they would operate with CBICA, we can shave some time off a little later. So that's what I'm gonna attempt to do today. So I'm gonna leave this screen up here. I'm gonna stop the presentation mode. And while I do that, is everyone okay? By the way, we talked about disconnected operations. I do have a slide here for this. I will go into this if we have time at the end. I know this is important. This is important for, we've talked to NESD about it. We've talked to Navy 311 about it. I want to talk to you guys about it. Anyone who's doing anything with regards to understanding what's going on ships, that's an important conversation. So we'll come back to that if we need to. Okay, so I'm going to end the slideshow. Let me pause for a second. Does the plan for today sound good? Or is there anything that I didn't talk about that is more important that you guys want to get that time spent today?
This is Ron. Everything looks good so far, so thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually we're going to go into the, as I promised. I've got two screens going up because there's going to be some bouncing around here, right? So I am logged in here as Julie Lewis. So we're at the Sailor Experience. This is the tier 0 sort of how do I interact with the ICO organization? How do I get the things that I want to do to help myself? And so I'll take some time to walk through this. The first thing you're going to notice, we've got a wealth of capabilities around notifications. When you think notifications, any kind of a task gets assigned to you, or an approval is needed, or maybe we just want to make the users aware of something. We have the ability to create notifications. Those notifications can be emails, they can be text messages, they can be sort of in browser or in platform notifications like pop-ups and stuff like that, or they can be these what I like to think of as announcements. And so this might be something where Julie logs in. Now she's shipboard, but it's a nice way to kind of guide the users to some place where they want to be. We've got some known issues identified. She might click into this, but there's other applications you're going to see. So ServiceNow, and I'm not spending any time on this today, but if you're interested, actually PEO EIS is considering rolling this out. We've actually got some COVID-19 apps and some return to work apps that we're offering. So let me close these out. So this is the front door to the organization, right? This is the service portal or the CSM portal that you're going to have people log into to figure out what they need to get. I'm logged in as Julie, so let's take a look at her profile real quick. Julie is a Canes network technician. I'm going to pick on Canes a little bit today. Because they get all the money in the world, so it's okay to pick on them. No, I really, really like the Canes folks. I've been working with them for a long time. And of course, in 150, I had to for a good bit. But one of the things that I can do, and this speaks a little bit to case management in the sense of, and maybe this is perhaps a question, do you guys treat the users almost in an account model? So, in the commercial world, you would have the various users and they may be, they may represent different accounts. Maybe they're in a ship, maybe that's an S2 command, but I'm capturing all this information here because eventually I would like to assume that the ICEA group is not only interested in supporting the actual, the sailors and the Marines and the people that need help, but also what does that look like from the overall account? How is that ship? What's the health of that ship? What is the health of NIWC PAC or the program offices? What does that look like? And so that's something that we're going to look at. But basically, Julie is part of that ship. She's on the George H.W. So so that's that. That's how we're going to treat her, as part of that account. Now, there are other people that are part of that ship. She is just the Canes network technician, but there might probably a crypto person on that ship. There's probably the SATCOMs. There's all kinds of people that we may interact with that we want to know and speak to. So let me just go through this portal really quickly, and we'll sort of deep dive in where we need to. So the first thing I'm going to go into is the knowledge base. This is accessible via the top and also here. But this is, we talk about tier 0, and not only tier 0, but also, you have an incident, a problem, and you push those back out to the knowledge base as a known error. And this is one of those, I think, one of the earlier gaps that we talked about, that was like, well, the tier 0 knowledge base is not entirely maybe effective. Please correct me if I'm overstating that, but it's also, when we resolve something at the current point, I'm hearing that we're not pushing things back out. So you're going to see two knowledge bases here. We've got the CBICA and we've got the known error. So let me just click into the known errors to give you an idea of what we're going to see here. Now, from the ITSM perspective, right, if you think of, by definition, so an incident is the user's perception of a problem. A problem is IT confirming that it is an actual problem. And then a change, if a change is necessary, usually, okay, we've identified a problem, now we got to change a server, or we got to make a configuration setting or something else. But this is something that you would expect to see. So at the problem record, the tail end of that is, okay, congratulations, you've solved something, but push this back out. And this is what it would look like. So these steps, and this is very simplistic, these steps are meant to describe how we get around fixing that problem, right? Description, workaround, cause. These are very basic. These can always be configured to be a little bit more, more verbose. But the idea is, as a user, I can go in here, and if I say I've got a problem with Zoom or Teams or some sort of, Canes system or application, ACS, I can go in here, I can get the help that I need, and I can also vote on this, right? This is critical for, I think, the knowledge base and the health of the knowledge bases, is to be able to say, okay, I like this, it did help me, thank you for your feedback. Someone on the back side of things is to be create the reports and rate this. We're going to say, either this is old or incorrect, but we can also do things like through our workflow, be able to say this knowledge base has an expiration date of 1 year, right? And so the author, in this case me, the service admin, the admin, gets a notification saying, hey, this knowledge base is 9 months old. We're going to terminate this thing after a year. You may want to go in and refresh it and republish it. So, I mean, those are the types of things. By the way, I'm not going to subscribe to this. So anytime this article gets an update, I'll get a notification saying, hey, come check this out. That the article has changed. But these are the types of things that I think will make a healthy knowledge base. This will make it a little bit more adoptive, and people to get to use it more often. So that's just the known, whoops, let's go back here. That's just the known errors. I suspect that you guys probably also want almost kind of like your, I think of things like your ConOps or the steps that you have specific to, maybe one of the bins or something like that. So I just built out a very quick sort of knowledge base with, I've got some articles on ShoreNet, or maybe I've got some TACnet, or the radio rooms. What are the things that they want the user community to know about? How to set up a broadband router. Well, this is probably something that, like, for TACnet, maybe this makes a lot of sense. Now, perhaps it doesn't look like this, but you get the idea. Knowledge base articles can be very simplistic with just words, but they can get very, I think, very powerful when you start thinking about, you can embed, links to other systems if required. You can embed videos, training videos. We've had, NIWIC Pacific at one point was looking at, like, how can ServiceNow help with learning management? Well, ServiceNow, you can Google ServiceNow, you won't find learning management systems or LMS come up. That's not really what we do. But we can absolutely embed videos, and we did a prototype for this, embed videos to say, okay, here's your cybersecurity training, go in here, watch the video, take a test, complete the training, you're done. Now it's attached to your user record and you're off and running. So the knowledge base can get pretty powerful. All right, any questions with knowledge base before I move on? I'm doing a lot of talking. All right, nothing heard. The next thing I want to talk about is this community. Now, this is something that I don't think has specifically come up as a requirement, but I want to show you what it would look like and how that we could have the fleet potentially, again, not only look at knowledge base for tier 0, but each other for tier 0. And so what I did is, so we're looking at basically Navy communities. This is all within ServiceNow. And what I did is I just built out some forums, what we call forums for the actual for the bins. These are the bins, right? No, these are actual ICAs, CBICAs. And so what's really nice about this is I can go in as a sailor or a Marine. I can say, you know, my job revolves around crypto management, or in Julie's case, it's TACnet. That's what she does. So she's probably going to want to come in here and understand. She can do things like post content. So, you know, anything that's basically that's on this, you know, this side of the screen here, they can do within communities. If I wanted to ask a question or post a blog or post a video or just link to a video, I can even set up an event. So this is a place where they can come to get, you know, sort of sailor to sailor, Marine to Marine, Marine to sailor interaction. So, you know, it's almost kind of like, you know, the first thing I threw in here is like, let's say like, you know, 790 wanted to put on a training session for Stack, right? They can do that here. It's a really cool use case in the sense that, you know, as, you know, Julie, she can potentially, she has bandwidth, of course, she could come in here. This is a Teams link. Maybe it just takes me over to Teams and I'm having a discussion about, you know, what Stack is, how to set it up. Maybe, you know, maybe that's the next thing in her duty. I could go ahead and respond to this. I can say I'm going to go ahead and attend to this. And now I'm getting a sense for, so 790 is looking at this on the back and they're probably saying, okay, good. I've got, you know, maybe I've got 40 people. Maybe I can only have 50 max, but I can do that. So that's just almost like an event. But there's plenty more here. There's, you know, again, we talk about embedding videos. This is just something I made up, right? This is something I got off YouTube, but the idea is you can have all this content, whether it's training, maybe it's just purely educational. You can have videos, and I think the best part I think is the Q&A. Honestly, this is where you can ask very simple questions, and you know, you allow other sailors to say, I've seen this before, I've done this. This is how you answer it. It's all rooted in gamification, which is really fun. Obviously, you know, we do this ourselves. So ServiceNow has a community site. So you think about it, well, all of our customers, they have questions about ServiceNow, how it works, how it runs, the best way to do things. And so we have, if you go to communities.servicenow.com, it looks exactly like this. And you've got these, you know, these leaderboards of these super, in this case, ServiceNow SMEs that log in here. They'll go in and they'll answer questions. They help out customers. It's just a fun way to sort of, and people really start engaging once they get, you know, they see themselves on the leaderboard, they want to get to the top. So I think of this like as a potential for CBICA to say, hey, look, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to answer your questions when I have free time. But the sailors can do the same, the Marines can do the same. So a lot of great stuff in the communities. I'm really sort of, I think it makes a lot of sense for the ICAs themselves and perhaps, you know, manage that at the bin level or whatever. I'm going to go through a couple of things real quick because I'm watching the time here. So as Julie, she can log in and see all her lists. So this might be, you know, this is the various cases that she's created. You could make these incidents or changes or whatever she's asking for if she's requested certain things. You know, she may have something where she's got actions that she's got to take. It's back on her to basically close a case. But that's what she could do there. But let's take a look at the catalog really quick. I want to talk about something that maybe ask a question here. This is just the ServiceNow catalog, right? I created a couple categories based on, you know, what I think might be relevant for CBICA. So I actually broke it out into two things. I said, okay, we've got capabilities, right? You've got your actual CBICAs out there running. And so do we want to service, you know, I'll take networks, for example. Do we want to create service catalog items for people to do things based on the ICA, Or do we want, in the more traditional sense, like I know your core service is really well. Do we want to do something where it's like, or maybe we look at it that way. So let me pause for a second and take a sip of water here. How do your customers get in touch with you if they want to order something? Is it capability in nature, or is it CBICF based?
It could be both. It depends on the system and if it's associated with an agency-wide system or not.
Okay. Okay, well that makes sense. I mean, I set it up in both so that we could show it that way. I mean, to me it makes sense that, look, I mean, Julie probably, and by the way, we didn't talk about this, but ServiceNow is completely role-based access control. So for example, if if all she does is networks and Kane's and her work is completely within Tactical Networks, then she would only see this item, right? And she can do whatever she needs to do. So it may be something where we could, and this may be a maturity level 3 or 4, maybe as we go down the road. But you can do things like, do I need to refresh my network routers, or these are the things that like we can package and orchestrate for them so that they're not constantly asking CBIC for help if not needed, right?
Hey Adam, you're at the 30-minute mark.
Okay, thank you. So anyways, I wanted to show this so that you know that it's available either way, right? So if a sailor just says, look, I just need, by the way, they can just do this all from here. I shot right past the, the searchability within ServiceNow. I can see distance support, or I can see, what's the other one, like maybe a SOVOT. I need help with a SOVOT, right? These going into catalog items, but also within the knowledge base. So again, going back to that whole, incident deflection or case deflection, it's almost like if you need help with a SOVOT, do you need us? Maybe you do, but maybe not. Maybe if you just got a very simple question, we can surface that in a knowledge base article. I'm going to do one more thing, and then we're going to submit, and then we're going to pause, and we're going to change personas here. So I wanted to bring up, obviously, the virtual agent. This is just a basic web bot, right? But it is also our ability to have an actual real chat with someone behind the scenes. So when I click this open, the first thing you're going to see is here's CBICS support. Show me everything that you can do. And now these are basically, again, we're talking to a machine at this point. We're not actually asking anybody in the ICO organization to help us with this. And these are all based on like no code conversations. If you're really interested in this, I can set up another time to show you how we build these, but it is truly conversational. It's like, okay, what do you want to prompt the user? What's the question you're asking them? Okay, and then what data do you expect back? And then take that data and then what do you want to say? So it's literally a conversation. But we could do things like, for example, I'll do like check the IT ticket status. There's no human behind it, but it's okay. Pull according to you. Here's the 2 incidents I have open. Maybe it's the the USNO network is lacking. Maybe configuration settings. Let's click on this one. It's going to bring and surface up the actual description, what it is, when it was updated, and if I want to add a comment, right? So this might be something where it's like, okay, please enter your comment. I'll say it's improved, but only slightly, right? Just a normal, just to, sort of let them know what's happening. I've updated the incident. Thanks for supporting. So everything is done. So I didn't have to open up a ticket. I didn't have to talk to anyone. I can just sort of keep that person updated. I can start a new conversation, and there's tons of things that we can do. But what happens with, a lot of times users go, I like chatting with a bot for the stuff that's easy, but really, like, I liken it to when you're using the phone and you're calling a 1-800 number, and you just want to talk to a person, right? The shortcut is to hit 0. Right? Whether they tell you that or not, if you hit 0, you're probably going to wind up at a person pretty quickly. And that's what this is. So I can actually go to the support options. I can call support if I have telephony integrated in with ServiceNow, which we do all the time. I can send them an email, or I can have a chat with them. So this is important. We're going to come back to this. Once I log in as somebody else, we're going to come back and have this actual chat with the person, with the sailor. Okay, but let's do this. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to create a case specific to an actual product. So Julie has her stack, right? Her cane stack. I just want to show you what this looks like. Again, it's very much like if you were to create an incident, a change, a problem. The format is relatively the same, although these are very configurable. Okay, so here's, that we can pre-populate things based on the fact that you're logged in as Julie. We already know where you are, what your information is. So pre-population is key. If I knew, for example, a specific, let's see, what did I have? Let's say it's, if it was, okay, well, let's just, oh, you know what? It's basically, it says, okay, I know that as Julie or as that account, you have a limited things of assets. These are your assets. This might be your cane stack. So I'm just going to pick one. Let's just take this one. And what's the product? There it is. What's the priority? Let's call it high. And what's the subject? And this one, let's just going to say canes, performance is lagging considerably. Now, what's interesting about that is I started typing in canes. You notice that we've already sort of surfaced a bunch of stuff down below to say, hey, look, just in case. Again, this is you're about to click send, and someone's going to have to do some work here, which is fine if needed. But this is your last chance to almost kind of go, huh, what's this? Maybe this is super helpful. Maybe I don't have to create this case, and I can go off. Takes me off to a knowledge base article. But in this case, I'm going to say no. I've already read that. Doesn't make sense. Not relevant. We'll go ahead and submit this. And then this is basically my interaction. So I can always come back if I ever want to know the status of that specific case. And again, incidents work the exact same way. So do requests, whatever it is you're doing, you're brought to the screen where I can, then, attach error files. So I'm going to attach a picture real quick. Maybe something, this is what we're getting. It's usually the first step in understanding where an error is. Show me what you're seeing. And this is my back and forth. So as the person that comes back and looks at this, you're going to see their conversations kind of build up on the left-hand side. So it's a continual back and forth understanding of where that ticket is. I've seen people get this is very simplistic and out of the box. You've got your priority and if there's a contract related to that specific asset, like maybe it's a maintenance or like a warranty or something like that, we can add that as well. But I've seen, hey, you've just created this. I'm going to show you the SLA. This is the SLA based on this particular problem or error. So you can expect to hear back in 2 days. You should expect to have it resolved in 5 or whatever it might be. Okay. All right, I'm going to actually pull this aside and pause it for questions real quick. That was a sailor experience. Makes sense? Do you think that there would be some value in there based on the use cases and your interactions today?
Yeah, I'm going to let the rest of the group offer up comments. I do think there's some value there. I'm concerned about how the sailor reaches back to get it if it's bandwidth constraint, because of the environment afloat. So
yeah.
If anybody else has a comment, please provide.
I think if we can also limit the need to know type of thing, because even though you may have some kind of role that allows you to see certain things and you're on a certain type of ship, you might not be, maybe you shouldn't be looking at other ships, or maybe that would be confusing for you to look at a different ship because the ship configurations are so different.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
That's a good point, Susie, because we know that historically with ITSM, and a lot of the ITSM data is shared in Sailor, and we've had to restrict other ships from seeing other ships' configuration because, sailors, they'll grab a configuration and put it in there, regardless if it's on their platform or not.
Yeah, I always make the joke that we talk about, real-time CMDB on a ship is like would be absolute nirvana, because we go through the avail process and all that work to do tech refreshes on ships and everything that needs to happen. And then I swear to God, it's like 30 minutes after it's pulled away from the port, things change. And it's like, wait a minute, how did that equipment get plugged into this? And how did that port change and that configuration change? So yeah, I definitely feel you there. We did a whole lot of between 150 and 160 sort of finger pointing around. Wait, who did what? Is this a network problem or is this an application problem? And I'm sure that's still the case. But let me I promised that we were not going to get into this today, but I do want to just bring it up. So one of the things that we actually did for Navy Enterprise Service Desk was to basically, I haven't talked about the flexibility of ServiceNow. So we have our own data centers. They're actually IL4 accredited today, but we can be hosted on bare metal. We can be hosted on Snowball Edge, which has been really exciting. We actually piloted that as well. And so the purpose being, if I can do a discovery and just understand everything that's on a network and have a CMDB within that ship, and then when I have bandwidth, send that over to a hosted, ServiceNow, whether that's in a government data center or something higher, IL5, IL6, whatever. We could really truly have a digital twin library. Now, to Susie's point, I think it's almost kind of like, while we were doing this pilot, we said what information is really critical to share, because ServiceNow, we can, that portal that I showed, that could be the DDG 1000 service portal, and it completely runs independent of anything else, any other ships. But we had to start having that the conversation with the government around what incidents, or maybe it's an HR case, right, or maybe it's a case or whatever, need shore visibility, because we don't want to replicate everything. I don't think. Maybe we do, but that was sort of the thing where it's like, if the fleet, if we want the visibility across the fleet with regards to incidents, problem changes, HR cases, we could do that, but let's be very selective. Let's be a little bit more selective, because look, I mean, some things can get resolved on ship, right? That it doesn't need someone on the shore to gain access to that. So anyways, I bring it up because what you said resonated with me. I think we've got some more work. We're actually looking into so PMW 240, which manages the MPT&E. We partnered with CACI that won that contract, and that's something that we're hoping to actually get, like either an OTA or something out there that we can do that demonstration. So anyways, it exists, but it needs a little bit more maturity, I think.
So you're saying that you can discover, you're auto discovering what's on the ship?
We can, yeah.
And through crypto devices and everything?
Yeah, I'd probably have to bring in like an IT operations management person. But basically, I mean, if you look at IT operations management, we use the way that we do discovery. It's agentless today, so it just uses basic protocols, SNMP, WMI, SSH, and we can go out and understand what's on a ship and bring it back onto the CMDB. Those discoveries can be run nightly, weekly. Completely depends on the customer.
And you're right. We typically want the ship to kind of try to fix their own problems. They get escalated to shore because they're pretty smart people, most of them. And so, if they can't fix it, then we need to know about it. And if we need to know the rest of it, we can get a report or something. But we don't need to be alarmed to every single thing that they find.
Right. Thanks for letting us know, but congratulations on fixing it yourself. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, but the key feature is that you can you aggregate that data back into, like, the program office wants to see holistically, hey, we need to see what the entire fleet is experiencing. Even if CBIC doesn't resolve it, it's like, hey, we need to be able to understand what is being resolved. When I was at MCTISA, a lot of times those things, like any self-help, a Marine gets trained once on how to fix something, and then that issue arises 10 more times. We never captured that because we were running on SharePoint at the time and our own homegrown solution. So it was like, that was data that was missing for the program offices to go, actually, this is a really big issue, not just a once and done kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's very true. We need to know. It's just that we don't necessarily need the CBICs to react to it.
Yep, exactly.
All right, good conversation. Thank you for that. Okay, so I've transitioned. So basically, sorry, I keep flipping back and forth, but basically we're at a point between Julie and the people actually doing the work. I wanted to log in as the system admin very quickly, just to show you two things. So from a navigation perspective, if you're what we call fulfiller, meaning you fulfill the tasks, you don't create them, right? Because some of these tasks are created by the sailor. We don't, and I know we're not on a licensing discussion, but just so you're aware, we don't license for the people requesting things. So any like portal visitor that's trying to get things done, that they're not, we don't license for them. We worry more about or are concerned about the people doing the work behind it. And so so those fulfillers would come into a screen similar to this. This would be sort of their launching area. And you've got all your capabilities on the left. There's a whole lot here because I'm an admin and I've got access to everything. But you can highlight the certain things that are very important to you. These are like the favorites. And then if, we're keeping a trail of where you've clicked, and what screen you've been on. So, we hear this all the time about, ServiceNow can be so broad that you can get lost. And so we have to have the ability to say, where was I like 2 minutes ago? I just want to go back there. I don't want to have to do like the 10 clicks to get there. And so you have that ability as well. And this is a generic dashboard that I created. Everything from a reporting perspective is widget based. If there's time at the end, I'll actually show you how you can create this. It's really, really very easy. But this was my vision for something that a dashboard that CBIC might resonate with, right? I've got all my cases, how many are unassigned. I can see the distribution between, where are they and from a tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, whatever support. I can see the various requests. So, this could be calendar in nature, but I think you're probably getting the idea, right? There's a lot of ways to visualize data within ServiceNow. We don't necessarily need, although we integrate very well with like the Tableaus of the world, which I know Navware is getting more and more into, which is fine. Talk about SLAs. I know that's pretty critical to ICAs these days, so I can see if something's about to breach or what's at risk. Even, from my vantage point back in the program offices, I remember the spend plan view. That was like, okay, here's my WBS and this is the amount we're spending. I remember my PAPM was like very involved in sort of the development of how this all works. And of course, I have limited demo data, but I think you understand where I'm going with that. It could be nice as opposed to having people, create additional PowerPoint slides, right? If I could just export this. I can take a look at where my field techs are, right? So, all the things that they're doing, all the great things that they're doing, where are the new work orders coming from? Number of task orders, what is their task order by state or priority? And then finally, this is where you could get into like ITSM, incident problem change, and whatnot. So there's, again, it's very easy to visualize data within ServiceNow. The one thing I really wanted to show you though, I talked about, this ability for things to be easily maintained. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up an incident record. We're going to use this one. And so what happens, and of course I can only do this as a system admin. That's why I'm not jumping to the next person in the demo script. But let's say, for example, it's an incident record and this looks great. It's all out of the box. I'm seeing category and subcategory, and I can even look at the CI and I can look at what it's connected to and all that good stuff. But what happens if, I just want another field? This doesn't make a ton of sense for CBIC. So what would I do? So I can right click on this. I'm going to scroll to the bottom and hit configure. And then I can go into form layout, form design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to form layout. And this is going to just bring me to what we refer to as a slush bucket. It's basically, hey, here's everything. ServiceNow is a giant relational database. And so everything that we can capture from an incident record, we're going to show you. And then you determine what you want to see on a screen and what you don't want to see on the screen. Cranking the wheel, come on, network. While that loads, I'll just show you basically some of the things that you'd find in an incident record. I can show the SLA timelines from here. And I said, like, that's, oh, of course, now it loads. It's a relational database. So from the incident record, I've got something at the very bottom I was showing, which are just basically a listing of tabs. But those are, you know, other records or tables in ServiceNow that relate to that, to the incident. So anyways, here's all the available fields that I can throw into that form. But if there's just something that doesn't make any sense and it's something brand new, right, this would be something like, you know, let's just call it hall number. It's a string. You can define what it is, how big it is, that sort of stuff. But I'll add that. And there it is. And I'm just going to throw this up there right under CI. We're going to save this. And so what it's doing, it's not only just from a graphical, you know, perspective, throwing a field on a form. It's actually, it just added another column in the table. Right. So this now is CBN 76. Right. So very, very easy to maintain. And we always do this. So we have partners that, like, you know, so we haven't gotten to this point in the discussion, but ServiceNow has professional services. We have people that sit with customers after they purchase to say, what are the workflows that we want to do? What do the forms look like? What are the fields that you want? But we have partners that do this as well. And so it's absolutely part of that. We, you know, it is very easy to do, but it's also, you know, we want to be consultative in the sense of, you know, we want to make sure we're building the right thing. So I talked about those related lists. So this could be like, for this incident record, I've got an SLA. These are my impacted services. They have children incidents, other security incidents, you know, show the SLA timeline. And you're going to see this. I'm showing you this now so that I probably don't really have to show it later because I think it's important. This is the COVID situation where I've got, my wife is on a Zoom, I'm on a Teams, my kids are probably on Netflix and whatnot. So this is what the SLA timeline looks like for this incident. So you can see when it was created. I can start to see, hey, we're very much in the red at this point, you know, 300 days in. So, but I can understand what it is and what it does. All right, so let me do this. We have this great, for demo purposes, this great ability to impersonate people. So I don't have to log out, log back in 100 different times. So I'm going to go ahead and impersonate a user. And we're going to go to the next step in that road that I was showing you. And we're going to go in as the case manager. So, you know, Julie created a case. It needs attention. It needs the CBIC. I don't know, and you guys can educate me, but like, does this go, like, I'm aware of the various roles within the CBIC as the service managers and the service delivery managers. Who does it go to first, I guess? Who does the sort of, I would call it tier one, maybe triaging within your organization? I figured it was the service manager, it might be the BRM, I don't know.
Most likely for an incident, it will hit the TSS SDM's desk first.
Got it.
I think the BRM and the SM might be a little bit higher in the ether, where the TSS SDM does all the internal data, supportability, maintainability, incident type work. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, the BRM, as I recall, was more sort of in charge of the SLAs, and that was their sort of, they needed to report on that and understand it. So, yeah, like I said, I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm really glad that, you know, we're having this conversation because it will help me ultimately sort of understand it and design a better system. So what we're going to do, so we are on as John, and so there's a couple different things that, you know, this we talk about sort of the view of, you know, I can just look at things and list and forms. What we started hearing from our customers recently is that's all well and good, and I can manipulate forms, and people are very comfortable with that. But sometimes, you know, especially with ServiceNow, where you've got, and this is a perfect case for it. What if I'm looking at a case that also has a incident within it and also has a SLA tied to it? That can be a lot of clicking using this. So what we did is we wanted to create this new sort of workspace user experience. So that's what I'm going to do most of my stuff in here. Sorry, I want to move I've got my Teams control panel bar up here, and I'm trying to get rid of it. But it doesn't annoy me too much. So what's going to happen, Jason? The first thing is going to come into, maybe Monday morning is you're going to see homes, you're going to see their lists, and you're going to see their inbox. So the first thing that I would probably do is I come in Monday morning, I open this up, and you're going to see this status, and I'm offline, right? So you remember when we were Julie and we were at the portal, and it was like there are no chat agents available right now. So by me clicking this, I am now able to have a conversation real time with a sailor if the connection obviously exists. But what I would probably do at that point is, I can come to my home, I can see all the work that's been distributed to me. We have some pretty robust machine learning for what we call either advanced work assignment or auto dispatch. So in this case, it's advanced work assignment. So based on business rules, maybe, because this is TACnet related, those cases come straight to me, right? They don't necessarily have to be put in a pool and not assigned. We can assign those things right away. And I'm going to look down. I can see the things that aren't assigned. So there's some incidents, right? There's Julie, slow response times, things like that. So I could go in here and manually assign them if needed. But I've got all my P1 incidents and the SLA's breached. And so this is just a nice view to sort of kick off the day and understand what I need to do for the day, unassigned incidents and things like that. Time to resolution, first call resolution. These are all things that you guys are tracking. But I'm going to go to the lists here, and because Jason has access to this, but we've got I can get alerts and anomalies and things like that. There's my cases. I'm just going to close up some of these because I don't think too many of them make a ton of sense. But I've got my access to the knowledge base articles. I have interaction that I can log whenever I have a phone call conversation or even a chat. I can do that within the interactions. Here's the work order. Here's the tasks that the work orders require. Post case reviews, everything, right? So everything that they need or see, they can come in here. So, but what they can also do is I can create lists that make sense to me. So maybe I didn't see changes in there. So what I did is I just created a new list. And okay, what is this list that you want to review? It could be I don't know. We'll just say applicable CIs. Right, so, or maybe systems, and it's going to say what table are you trying to get this out of. So we would say something like, it's going to be a CMDB table. Maybe I just care about load balancers or whatever, right? CCA cards. But I would go through and that would show up as my list. So this is my shortcut to get my work done. But let's take a look at the case because we had Julie create a case. It should bubble up to the top. Okay, so there it is. This is the one that we were looking at before. It's kind of nice because, again, I can see here's the case number. Here's a short description. This is, the contact, where she is or what ship she's on. And if there's other things, right, what did it come over? Did it come over via the virtual agent? Is it over the web? Is it a phone call? How did this get to us? Priority, who is it assigned to, and so forth. And so when he opens the case, he's going to get a bunch of information. And again, you're seeing this just build out via tabs. That's what we were trying to get with this workspace was I can have everything sort of on one screen. And I can just hide information or data below the panels. Okay, so here's the case. Here's my contact. I can see where she is if I need to get in touch with her, right? I can show the timeline. So we just created this 22 minutes ago. Every time I make a change to this case, it'll show up. If there was something that I did, right? If I saved something, if I decided to assign this. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and assign it to me. I'm loading the SLA data so that we've hit the stopwatch. I've got 1 day remaining for resolution in this case, which is pretty aggressive. But this is basically the way this works is here's all my case information. I can see that there's, an issue. I assigned it to me. It's a high priority. Here's my customer account information if I need to get in touch with them. I've got this idea of work notes, and I can actually add people to the watch list. So if this were something where, hey, I own it, but someone else, my boss, needs to be aware that, let's try someone. Yeah. So let's say this is my boss, and they need to be alerted or notified or send an email every time some work is done on this case. They can. When we close things, what the resolution was. If you need to assign a problem or a change request to this, you can do that because this is again, this is the flexibility of having using a case. We don't know if this is a problem. We don't know if it's an incident. We're not sure what it is. And so, so we've got from a work notes perspective, you can have these things be internal in nature or public facing. So if Julie wants to know this, you want to give an update to Julie looking into this, you can post that. But if this is a situation where I just wanted the rest of the CBICO organization to understand what I'm doing, like, I'm looking at the, config files or whatever, you can post all that. And that stays private. The right-hand side, this is where it gets, I think, in the, going back to the slide number 2 in our presentation, it was like, the tier 1 was limited in the sense the notes that were taken is that they times were just a pass through. I would submit that this helps them considerably not be a pass through because what we're doing here, we're using our native machine learning capabilities to look for things that are similar in nature that we've seen before. And so this is called Agent Assist. And so what it's doing, it's basically taking the keywords. In this case, it's just taking the actual the keywords from the actual title of the case. But it's going to say, okay, based on suggested articles or similar cases or similar knowledge articles, these are all things that you do need a lot of data to perform machine learning, and that's not a ServiceNow thing. That's any technology. You don't get a high level of confidence running through patterns if you don't have a lot of data. But this is what it's intended to do. It'll say, hey, look, before you don't need to triage this out. Maybe we don't need a work order for this. Here's a cadence configuration setting. Maybe this is what's going to help. And this is just a knowledge-based article, but I can go in and say, I want to attach this to the actual case. Julie, please review. Attach the article. And by the way, this is Julie's view, right? So I'm going to close this up so you can see it. Just to give you a sense that, remember, Julie submitted all this looking into it. Here's the knowledge base article. She can click on that. She can have access to it. And this is perhaps where tier 1 can say, I'm less of a pass through. I can actually provide help in getting them what they need. In this case, let's say that none of this helped. I'm going to go ahead and create a work order. And we've got to get some ICEA specialization help with regards to this case. Okay, I'm actually going to hit. I would be very much shortcutting the process. I'm just going to hit ready for dispatch. So we need a dispatch patch group to be provided. So, but that ends his job, right? So he's managed the case. I guess the one thing I didn't show is I want to go back to like how do I manage the specific account. I'm just going to look at all the customer accounts that John Jason has access to. But just to give you kind of like, okay, so here's the bush, here's like, I think I have some like, from previous demos, Navor, Navfac, if you're dealing with specific other, ships, here's the captain. But this helps me get a sense of basically who's who in the zoo with that specific ship. It also gives me a holistic view of all the cases that we did on the bush, the assets that they have, interactions, entitlements, so software entitlements now are getting really, really mature down the road, right? To be able to see everything that's installed on ships, but just know that it's there. That's what the account data model is there to do. All right, closing that up. I am watching the clock. I want to get into the dispatcher. Okay, so remember, we created a case. We took a look at that. We said from a tier 1 perspective, we think we can help. We're managing the accounts. If we need to, we can create work orders. Now it's up to Lisa to basically say, okay, I've got my team of ICEA engineers or technicians. I need to manage the skills. I need to understand, right, who does what they're good at. This is exactly, this is why I get sort of excited, because I think with CBICEA, the whole intent of it was to be able to more proactively manage the fleet issues based on skills. I can do things like manage the planned maintenance. So if you have And I'll show this very quickly. It's not really the intent of today, but if you have assets or things that you're using, we don't have to wait for something to go wrong to create a work order. If we have a CCA card that we know fails, within a year, we can do like 6-month planned maintenance to check it out to make sure it's working. And we can assign that work to the technician. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, I am impersonating a user. I'm going to come in as Lisa Ray here, and we're going to do this as fast as we can. But okay, so the first thing you're going to see is a very nice dispatch map. I apologize. This is a little hard to do for Navy because I basically have, accounts and people sitting in the ocean. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. But just think of it this way. If I'm the dispatcher or I'm the person that's in charge of my ICS staff, I can see where they are and what they're doing. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a filter. Let's do this, I think, tomorrow. Yeah, it's because I'm going to need a little more data. I'm going to try this. I think this is the day. Yeah, this is what I wanted to see. So this allows me to sort of see where my agents are and the things that are happening on that day. So anything you see these WOTs, those are work order tasks. If they're red, they're considered unassigned. And if they're blue, they're already assigned. So, but what's really neat is for, and this may not be relevant for CBIC, but just to know that it exists. I want to be able to show the route, but basically if you have Alex Ray here, he's down here and he's got to do work, at these red spots and maybe one of these blue spots, actually optimize the actual route that they would take to save them time. Like what's the most efficient way to service these 3 items within the afternoon? So again, I don't know if I think of that as almost like my cable provider would be very interested in having something like that, but it is pretty neat. Okay, let's go to the managed skills because that's the kind of the first thing. Again, we as we understood it, it's difficult to understand who has what skill set. So and how do we do that? How do we manage that within ServiceNow? This actually works. This is specific to field service, but it works in other areas of the platform where I can say, here's all the skills, and I can create a new skill. Let's just say, I don't know, NTCSS. Did Noble, but let's just submit this. Yeah, skill saved. So we would work with you to understand, and obviously I know enough for the actual systems, but you probably know the lower level, what is it called? LRUs, lowest replaceable unit. So you would probably have that as skill sets. But once those are populated, then I can go into the actual workforce and say, okay, well, I know Alex has access. He's good with ACS and C2P and Canes, maybe Link 16 and Geeks. And now I click out of that and I've saved that. So now that person has those skills. So now I get way better at understanding how I can resource them, how I can use them, how I can service the fleet better. And so this is everybody. So they have 7 skills, 4 skills. And this becomes hugely relevant when you are starting to do the what we call auto dispatch, which I'll show in a second. We can take a look at the team's calendar. So let me go into, I'm going to look at the week view, but I can get a sense for, here we go. It's a little bit better. Let's go to the 26th. 26th looks nice and busy. Okay, so if I know, for example, that Alex is doing some router setups and he's installing a power supply unit on a ship, I can get a sense for what their week looks like. This also takes into account, and this is at the user record, if someone takes like a PTO or vacation or maternity leave or paternity leave, like you can keep them in front of you, but you can also use that to sort of manipulate the work and who's doing what and when. I already showed the dispatch map. And again, we can auto assign based on a lot of different things, skill sets being one of them, proximity to the actual case being another. What else? Availability, not overburning people. But if for those that can't, I would use this sort of central dispatch capability. So what it's saying is, it says there's no task here to dispatch. We'll just go to the earliest window for available tasks, right? And so these are all various work orders. Right, I can scale this down and scale it up. So let's just take the top. Let's take the top 3. But what's really nice about this is, again, this is where we're using business rules and machine learning to understand who's best suited to address each work order. So in this case, and I can click into this, I can get the details of the specific work order. You know, I've got the address, but I can see here are the skills that we need. You know, short description, it's high priority, maybe what system of record it is. But I can now do things like if I select this, it's going to tell me below, based on my team, who has the matching skill sets, how far away they are from that specific work order, and a couple other things that we could show. So if I, you know, I'll scroll to the next one. I'm seeing that Nina, for the router setup, she's got 2 out of the 3 skills, pretty good, but she's also very close to it. I can click on this and auto assign her. So if I go auto assign, it's going to say, here are the parts. Oh, that's the other thing. I didn't talk about parts. So she's got the necessary parts at her disposal. She has 2 of the 3 skill sets that we need. And so she makes the most sense, and also based on the fact that she seems to be pretty close and has some availability, she seems to be the best fit. So I can actually go ahead. I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to show you another way that we can do it.
Adam, how's this maintained? How's this data maintained?
So the dispatching?
Or populated, or, you know, how does it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's so if you look at Nina, so for example, I think it's going to show her head of schedule. Yeah, so I mean, from a scheduling basis, I think what it's part of it's the user record, Eduardo, isn't it? Is Eduardo on? Yeah, I mean, so
I'm sorry. Hey, Adam. Yeah, I couldn't. Can you repeat the question, please? I couldn't.
Yeah, the question about how this data is maintained, and I think, Susie, what you're talking about is, I mean, we've got the work order task and we know the people, right? So those are just basically your own teams. But from an availability perspective, like, how do we? I think the question, Susie, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how do we? Where do we know when Lisa is doing things? Like, is it stored at the user record? Is it at the account level or technician level? Do you know?
Yeah, it's stored at the technician level. So the technicians are they can manage their own schedules, or you can group them together and have groups of technicians that have a similar schedule, like say like 8 to 5 on weekdays, and then that determines their availability. They can block time on their own schedule. So if they know they're going to be out on Thursday and they're not going to be available, they can block that time out so that they don't get any tasks assigned. So they have some control on their managers as well to manage, like if they're going to be out or if they're out sick, they can update their schedule themselves as well.
So the address that's here, that's where they're physically normally located, but it might not be where they're at right now, right? Maybe they're already close to a ship or something.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Can the address be almost real time?
Yeah, kind of updated by some GPS or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we keep track of like if the technician is using the mobile app, we can keep track of their real-time location and update that in real time. So yeah, we'll look at Lisa if she or Cindy, if she's closed, she just finished a job that was right next to it, that's going to show her real-time location.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because you're probably going to have ICF folks down at 30th Street, and if they're there right then, it might be worthwhile to assign them a task because they're already there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. One of the things that we just added, it's a really cool new feature, is you're able to see, like, even the customer or the person who requested the job, they're able to see where the technician is in relation to them. So like Uber, for example, you can see how far they are if they're getting there, to make sure there's someone that's going to be there to open the door or help them if they need any. The user needs to be there, for the person who requested needs to be there to fulfill that work order.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eduardo. Good drop. And the other thing is, so if I talked about the ability to sort of auto assign based on the skill sets and what you're seeing. I can also just take this pill, for example, and drag it around and say, okay, well, I think Nina needs to do it, but we can actually push it out a couple days. So you're not beholden to the date and time that the work order was planned to start, right? So you can move that around.
Hey, Adam, you're at the 15-minute mark.
Yep. Thanks, man. Okay, last thing for Lisa. For areas where, and these are all work order tasks, again, if there's something where we can't automate the assignment because maybe no one has the right skill sets or the right parts or is in the right location, Lisa can come to this dispatch queue, and this is really, again, you're familiar with the list by now, but you're going to see that everything here is empty, right? We haven't assigned it. It's all pending dispatch, so Lisa's got to get this out. So what I can do is I can select, I think it's like up to 50. And just for demo purposes, I'm going to scroll down. And if I click on actions on the selected row, there's a whole lot of stuff based on, we would restrict, but basically you've seen this auto assign. So what it's going to do right now, and it's going to take probably no more than hopefully 10 seconds, but it's going to go through and say, okay, you asked for, those 10 work order tasks, and you want me to take the best guess on assigning it, even if it's not something that I can sort of, automate. This is what the suggestions would be. And schedule starts. So it can do all that. And if I confirm this, it basically will take this out of the dispatch queue, puts it in their queue, and then they've got their work for the next couple days. All right, I am done with Lisa. Let's do one last, and I'm watching time. I know that we only have a couple minutes left, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm going to jump into a mobile demonstration at this point. It's just going to take me a second, and we're going to look at the actual tech. We'll look at the mobile, their ability to kind of consume parts and assets, manage their own inventory, and close work orders. So give me one sec. Let's do this. Find devices. I'm going to be working off my my phone, which is probably a little bit smaller real estate than you would expect an actual technician to have. Let's move this over. So you're looking at my phone right now. Okay, it's tethered to my laptop, and I can kind of flip around and see things. So we actually got 3 mobile applications. So if you go onto the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, and you search for ServiceNow, you're going to come up with 3 applications, and they're very much use case driven. So, and I won't get into too much detail, but like if you're an employee, you want this green mobile app. If you are if you're onboarding into a new, like you're at a new company that uses ServiceNow for HR onboarding, you would use this. But in this case, we're actually an agent, so we're going to log into the agent application. And so, the first thing what it didn't ask me because I did it earlier today, but I'm logged in as Teddy at this point. The first thing that I could potentially do, and this goes back all the way back to the beginning of the demonstration, was using that chat capability. So this is a nice conversation between Lisa, John, Teddy, Julie, everyone you already saw or spoke with. And I'm doing this over my phone, so I can say, hey, look, at the shipyard, guys, about to start work. And so, again, this is just, this brings up like the knowledge base articles, and here's the case that you're working on. These are all things that you can do. If I have inventory, right, if I'm carrying around, whether it's cards or devices or whatever it is that I'm going to go and to fix whatever I need to fix, I can look at it from my inventory. I don't know if I have, yeah, I do. I can see things that I have at my disposal, and I apologize because I don't think these are really relevant to CVIC, but I think hopefully you get the idea. And I can see if something's defective. So it's almost like I can replace a rubber cooling fan, and I'll take off the dead one. So once I do that, I can actually literally scan it. If it's got a QR code or a barcode, I can scan it, add it back into my inventory, and then that's what I can do. I'm also going to be able to see, my work order tasks. So let's take this one for example. Sorry, it's not freeware. I can go in and see, okay, I've got to replace a cooling fan. I only need one. Let's see, I got to find the part to be able to do that. Here's my personal stock room. If this is out, maybe Alex has one, but I don't have one, or Alyssa has one. I can actually, request sort of like some sort of a trade, or figure out a way to pick that up from them. We'll source the part. What stock room does it come from? Is this a personal stock room, or is this something that, we talked to the NIWIC asset management folks. So I think it's Bruce Widener and Stephen Wadase. I don't know if I butchered that, Alex, but those guys, it was an interesting conversation because they were talking about we were talking about hardware asset management and stockrooms and this and how they are capturing assets. And they're in their own. They've got their own problems because there's stuff floating all over the place and not getting a hold of where things reside. But they mentioned you guys because it was like, oh, we meet with the a lot of what we do is service the parts or hold the parts that the ICA group needs. So this might be something that like ends up in a stockroom. You can do this all the way down to the point, and I'm going to stop it here. But basically, I think you get the idea with the mobile app. It is completely everything that you're seeing on the actual, on the desktop is natively available. We didn't do any specific coding or anything different to show you what it would look like on the mobile app. It is what it is. There's also a disconnected situation where we can, like, for example, let's say my phone didn't have any cell reception, right? I'm in the middle of an airfield or a shipyard. I have no cell reception and no internet. I can actually, before I go onto that job, I can download my work orders. And then as I'm working offline, I can make updates to them. I can even capture, I don't know if this is relevant, but you can capture signatures, like actual scribble sort of signatures, and have those stored on your mobile device. And then the second you have connectivity, you can do a synchronization back to the ServiceNow platform and everything will be updated. That actually, to me, makes some sense. Do
you have like a soft CAC capability built in, or? Perfect
question. Alex, do you want to talk about what MCTISA did?
Yeah, so I used to be at MCTISA, part of Marine Corps Systems Command, and so ServiceNow has the capability of accepting CAC. And what they did is, I don't recall the software right now off the top of my head, but I can link you up government to government on that. And we had a soft CAC on our not our personal devices, on our government handheld phones. So we had Samsungs and iPhones, and so you through that you should be able to get behind a CAC to ServiceNow, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well enough. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the question about sort of the use of mobile around Navy. I will say that, and you guys can agree or disagree with me on this, but ever since COVID, it's sort of like those conversations that I used to just like, I would not even have, because I say DoD is just not ready because you almost have to have like a hardware device attached to your phone. I remember my APMEs had one for a while, and it was just like, mobile wasn't necessarily an option. Ever since COVID, it's like, we have to have this. We have to have the ability to do this over mobile. So now everyone's sort of, that veil has been lifted, I guess, or maybe the bag of bricks has been lifted. So now people are actually interested in figuring out how that would work. So guys, that's it for me. I wanted to leave I wanted to leave 15 minutes, but hopefully maybe 10 minutes will be enough for just sort of Q&A. Hopefully this resonated a little bit. I'm interested in hearing what made sense from you guys, what didn't make sense, what might have been overkill, and maybe just a validation of the way that things are working right now at the ICA level.
So this is Ron. I appreciate the time to do this and walk us through this. I like quite a bit of the features. It definitely enhances or betters what we currently have in use. So I'm glad that we were able to record this so we can pull it down and share accordingly. But I did appreciate the ins and outs, and you guys taking so much time to understand our work model and how we support the fleet. So this could go a long way for us. So I'm going to leave other comments up to the rest of the team.
Hey, this is Vinny Martin, and I also appreciate the presentation. Lots of good stuff in there. I know I recognize a lot of the commercial applications that I encounter when I'm dealing with the issues outside of the SysCom/DoD realm. So It's good to see that being pulled in, and I like Ron said, I also see a lot of good things we can possibly leverage in the future. One question: who in the Syscom enterprise is using this application now, or plan to use in the near future? Over.
Yeah, so you're talking specifically the things that I showed today. Actually, let me just see if I can bring up. I've got a slide that actually has our sort of what we call the Navy Marine Corps footprint. I believe I have that here. Hang on one sec, please.
And while you're doing that, can you dive in a little bit deeper on what kind of coordination and support you provided NESD?
Yeah, so NESD was an OTA, as you guys, I'm sure, know. We were not selected, I think because there was concern on the government side about the taking the knowledge base articles from Remedy and the work that had to be done to get that into ServiceNow. We have created, and I didn't go into this, but we have something called Integration Hub, which is our ability. In fact, it's on the screen. It's right here. It's our ability to connect to third-party applications. So prior, and that's about a year old. It's really cool. We have things called spokes. So we have a spoke for Jira. We have a spoke for Salesforce. We have a spoke for 50 of the cybersecurity tools out there. These are basically, I call them canned scripts or canned APIs to be able to do the things that they need to do. SharePoint's another one. So at the time, we didn't have a spoke for Remedy. We do now. And so I think for the NESD, I think we were in OTA terms in the bucket or in the basket as a means to maybe pick up later. We have put in for Navy 311. We are anxiously awaiting that decision. And just from an ITSM and CSM perspective, I'll just up here on the upper left, and I'll send you this in case you need it. ITSM is obviously still our flagship product today. We have a ton of people using it. NAVSEA, it's gotten a lot of exposure from the shipyards. NAVSEA 04i. All the NSWCs are coming on board. We have Keyport I've been working with today. Dahlgren, Corona, and Carderock are going to come on board with ITSM. PMW 205. So there's a very large conversation happening at the MLB and DES levels with regards to how they're going to use ServiceNow. They've been using it for our ITBM. But anyways, as you can imagine, that would be, for ITSM and ITOM makes a ton of sense for them. Specifically for customer service management, which is what also a portion of what I showed you, PMW 790, it just came on board, Alex, like a month ago, 2 months ago. So it's interesting. They've got the DJC2 or the JXC2 folks down in Panama City. It's down at NSWC Panama City that do the deployed kits for RIMPAC. They needed a customer service management application, but then 790, Captain Turco, I believe it's still Captain Turco, was like, I want to use this internal for 790 as well. So they're brand new customers. They're not live or anything yet, but they're an exciting thing to watch from a C4I perspective. That excites me quite a bit. NavalX is a really, really awesome new organization that I'm sure you guys are aware of. They engaged with us early because they've got this concept called tech bridges, right? These, I think of them as communities, right? It's almost communities of interest, geographically spread out, but they want to connect basically industry to government to academia and create this sort of, I don't know, help us help you situation. So there again, it's also, they've only been live for, I want to say like a month now, but really exciting stuff. And then the big one for us right now is NCCS. This is down there in OT3 at the very end. So they're the Naval Commercial Cloud Services Program Office, PMW 270. And they're using us for cloud management, but also, they very much embrace this customer model because if anyone around the Navy wants cloud, they go to cloud.navy.mil and request that service from 270, and they're capturing all those people as accounts and cases, and all that work's being done. Not a ton of traction in NavAir, not a ton of traction in NavSup just yet. We're working on that.
Yeah, no, that's all good stuff right there. I do have to apologize. I have to go to another meeting here in 1 minute. So I appreciate you and Alex's time and effort in getting all this stuff put together. And I look for a follow-on discussion as we go down this path. So I do appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your time. I mean, Alex, I think you and I have a call, but I think if there's no other questions, we can all probably just drop.
Yeah, unless there's if there are any more questions, I can stick around for a few if Ed or Vinny or Susie, if you guys have any further questions.
No, thanks.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, I also have that same meeting. So thanks again for your time. That was really fascinating. I look forward to follow-on discussions.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I'll reach out. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
You guys have a
Thanks,
good day.
gentlemen.